Whoa, welcome, one of my 9 subscribers on this channel. It's so good to see you. I'm excited to be uploading a ton of random stuff on here, starting with this extended Q&A cut. So from here on out, basically, I wanted all rambles, all Q&As, all kind of raw or lower effort content to be put on this channel. I want videos on my main channel to feel like they're a special thing, So I want to cut out all lower effort content, put it on here, and just, series, movie type videos I want to keep on the main channel. I want to keep the main channel as clean as physically possible. And that's been stopping me from making videos like this more often. I used to upload a lot of ramble, talking type stuff, but I stopped because I started to see my main channel as strictly a high quality content hub. So that's what I'm going to keep it as. But I'm glad you're here. Lots of things are going to be uploaded here, and let's get me to 12 subscribers on here. Thank you. I've got more questions to answer, and maybe we'll actually get a defender on one of these Cyclops kills. Is the Inferno the hardest challenge you've ever done? If not, what is? I love this question because I get to rant a bit. I have so much to say on this topic. First of all, I want to say yes, I believe the Tileman Inferno run is close to, if not the hardest mechanical thing I've done in RuneScape. I've done things like the 6 Jad challenge multiple times, which I would say takes more mechanics probably, but for the sake of this rant, let's just say yes. I can't think of any MMO or roguelike or Souls-like that has a piece of content or boss that is even close to the Inferno in difficulty. Hear me out, because I am willing to die on this hill. Let's use Elden Ring as an example. I've beaten Elden Ring, I've tried no death runs in Elden Ring, which is, for like a majority of the internet, the token ultra hardcore game. And Millennia is regarded as potentially the hardest Souls game boss fight. Takes people hundreds of tries sometimes, but you just get to spawn outside the boss room if you fail. The fights are quick, you don't risk anything. But let me put this into perspective for you. The Inferno takes hundreds upon hundreds of hours to even gear up for, to even have a chance at this thing. A player wanting to take part needs to have upwards of 1 billion GP in gear. Then, to learn the Inferno mechanics, you're sending constant attempts through 69 waves, where you manage pillar health, several different monster mechanics, prayer management, food management. You have to understand and feel game ticks and game movement really well, and spend multiple hours in this cave on each attempt, just to get to attempt the final boss, just to have one try at it. Every death sets you back hours and millions in GP. You finally make it past the first 63 waves, and a lot of people die multiple times to the wave before Zuck, to triple Jads. By the time you're attempting the final boss, you're risking several hours of progress if you fail. And Zuck has a one-shot mechanic if you step outside of the shield. Like, if you lay all that out and truly think about it, that is some of the most hardcore shit I've ever seen in a video game. And to think that you need several hundreds of hours, if not upward of 1,000 hours, like if you were just sending a straight shot to the Inferno, I could see a couple hundred, but usually it's over 1,000 hours to even attempt the Inferno. It is really insane to compare anything else to it. I think the Inferno is a modern marvel of difficulty in video games, and I think a lot of extremely high-level players in the RuneScape scene are super jaded by that fact after they've mastered the Inferno. The Inferno is a timeless piece of endgame content in this game. It never loses its weight for me because I can view it from that lens and appreciate it. And yes, as the years have gone by, the Inferno has gotten easier and easier as you get access to much, much better gear. There are ways to cheese it, I'm sure, but I still think, objectively speaking, it can be the hardest thing in any kind of game that's similar. The Tileman Inferno run took me 30 attempts, and I already had experience with the Inferno. I think of myself as a pretty good player. So me going in there and taking 30 attempts versus Millennia and Elden Ring took me 4 attempts, 14 without a summon. That's still way less, and it's not even close to an apples to apples comparison when you think of how much time and effort and just mechanic. It's insane. It's so insane. The Inferno is disgusting, man. Like, if you objectively look at it, I think the Inferno is the hardest thing in any kind of similar video game. Went on a huge rant there, but I just, that was something that was on my mind a few days ago, and I really wanted to talk about it. So how do you manage to keep people like me who have never played RuneScape and have no idea what's going on in your videos to watch your videos as soon as you upload them? I have definitely gotten a lot better about this. I think just knowing your audience is a huge part of it. I know about half of you don't play the game. It's kind of like a balancing act, because I know that if you're, for example, a very high level player in RuneScape and you're watching these videos, a lot of the times when I'm explaining something in depth, it can probably get boring, like, I already know this stuff. Why would I want to watch someone explain this, and that? So it's a balancing act between pleasing, having people who don't understand the game keep watching, and also trying to please the people that, know a lot about the game, and I want them to stick around too. So I'll do things in a very subtle way that I don't think a lot of people even noticed, but like I can use an abbreviation that I think a new player wouldn't know, and then just explain, like let the subtext of whatever I say next explain what I just said. I can't really fully talk about it because then I feel like people will notice it more often. I want it to stay subtle. But I mean, I guess it's not a big deal if people know that I do it. It's still completely accomplishing its goal. But yeah, I love that so many people who don't play the game watch. It makes me so happy. In fact, it's a huge part of why I enjoyed the series so much, because it felt like just knowing that there's so many people who don't watch the game, it felt so good to kind of view the game and these videos through the eyes of a person who has never seen it before. It like kind of allowed me to vicariously, through you guys, vicariously enjoying it through me, enjoy the game even more. It's like, oh, this is gonna be such a cool item for a new player to learn about. Like, what are people thinking about the fight caves, the fire cave for the first time? It's like, wow, people are gonna think this is so cool, going through the waves and learning all these monster spawns and, all these mechanics. It's like when you view the game from that lens, when you view it from someone who's new, and even if you're a viewer who knows a lot about RuneScape right now, if you're watching my videos and if you just like put yourself in the shoes of someone who has never seen this game, it's such a fascinating game. There's so much that is so unique about this game. So imagine viewing it from their perspective, imagine viewing a fight cave or an inferno for the first time and just discovering all these mechanics, discovering all these nuances about the game. It's such a cool way to enjoy the game even more, and that's something that I used throughout the whole series to enjoy it a lot. I just viewed it from that perspective, and it was just, it made it so much more fun for me. Of the several restricted Ultimate Iron Man accounts you have played at this point, One Inventory Slot, Swampletics, McTile, which do you believe required the most creative gameplay and discovery? Do you think that the gameplay creativity allowed you to make a better story in editing? I'm gonna say Swampletics for sure. Swampletics required the most creative discovery because it was a goal that just genuinely could have been impossible from the start, but I set it as, the ultimate goal in the region because there was no other goal to set, so I had to do that. Just kind of banked over time that it would be figured out by either me or the community, and every week there would be some kind of discovery, so I just had to keep digging and digging. And yeah, that definitely added to the story because there were so many elements. It's like a big puzzle. So Swampletics for sure, and that's kind of the feeling that I'm trying to recapture with my next idea. I really want it to be like that again, where the goal will just really test me, test my knowledge, test maybe the community's knowledge, and let's see if we can figure something out again. Let's see if we can conquer the impossible, do something that's genuinely thought to be completely insurmountable. That's what I want to do. Did you ever start to doubt that you would finish the Inferno? There were definitely moments, just with so many fails, you start to think about it illogically, where you just start to doubt yourself, and that's definitely what happened to me. I, especially after the first Inferno death, where I flicked the Ranger and the Major 3 times in that run, like the sets, I flicked them perfectly, and I had never practiced that before, so that was like completely intuition, and I kind of doubted if I was going to be able to do that again, because I did it completely off feeling and intuition and not practice. So I was like, well, what if I can't do that again? And I used all my brews when I flicked the Ranger and the Major perfectly. If I'm going in there and I can't do that, then I'm going to run out of brews again. So that definitely got to me. I'm like, well, maybe I just, like, what if I'm not good enough to do this? But I was able to pick it up again. So I definitely doubted it just because of how long it took me, but I knew deep down that I would get it no matter what. Now that Tileman is over, are you starting a new project or perhaps revisiting an old one? I've been missing the heaviest bag in RuneScape series, honestly, and hope to see more. Every time a series of yours is completed, I get worried because I just love listening to you. That's really sweet, man. Yeah, I am starting a new project. I won't be revisiting, at least I don't know if I'm going to be revisiting anything right now. Just my plans are so focused on this new series right now. I would love to, if not revisit the main Ultimate Iron Man, I would love to actually cap that series off. Just give it one final hurrah, one final bang, and send it off. Because I've done things like Tombs of a Mascot on the account. I've probably put in like another 300 hours on that account that hasn't been documented on YouTube yet. I have the footage. It's sitting on my hard drive that has like no space left, and I haven't done anything with that footage. I'm proud of those videos. I think they're pretty good. I think that's around the area where I started to really like come into my own as a video maker. So I really enjoy that series. I'm glad it's up, but I guess 8, maybe, or is it 9 episodes of that series doesn't really do it justice. So I would love to give it a finale and then put it into its own mega video so that people can just binge watch it, because I do think it's really good content, which I don't say very often about my own stuff. I feel more confident about Swampletics and Tileman and that series, but everything before that I usually downplay and say it's really bad. But that's right around the area where I think like, damn, this was actually pretty good. So I would love to revisit that. Revisiting Swampletics, I said it was on the docket. I said I might even get to it in 2023, but I always put out these timelines and then I'm like, wow, I just don't have time for this. I started the escape room stuff, which I do want to revisit that. I saw a question about the escape room stuff. I'll probably answer later in the video, but just so many projects started coming up and I'm like, well, one inventory slot, escape rooms, I still have the main ultimate, what do I go to? And I still had to finish Tileman, so kind of put a little too much on my plate. I want to have a more focused view in 2024, just pursue this new series, put my all into it, and maybe one other project. I just don't know what that is. The main ultimate series, finishing it off would be great, because I would love, it's like I live for finishing off series. I want to have as many completed series as possible, because I just want my main channel to be like this hub of bingeable content. That's all I've ever wanted. So every series I complete just feels so good. Very long-winded answer, sorry, but yeah. Compared to the series in the swamp, was the Tile series more of a challenge? I'd say no. Tileman was a notch down in intensity, like I said before, but I will say the Inferno was definitely more challenging than the Swampletics Theater of Blood run, which they both took 30 attempts, I will say. Both the Swampletics TOB and the Inferno on Tileman took 30 attempts, but I think Tileman Inferno, there's so many more hours going into each attempt and so much more that you're losing for each attempt. Because a deep Inferno run, it's very costly. It's a lot of runes. It's 2+ hours. So in that sense, the ending challenge itself was more difficult on Tileman because of everything I had going on. But overall, the series, the challenges posed, the obstacles that I had to overcome, and the setback in Swampletics was so much harder to come back from than just this like 150 to 200 hour time loss. But yeah, I'd say objectively it would have to be Swampletics that takes the cake. Did your restrictions ever feel not enough? In the early game, the grind was extremely difficult due to the lack of easy ways to gain XP, but as you progressed, XP became easier and easier to obtain. In the future, would you be more inclined to possibly make the challenge more difficult as it progressed? So I'm not really in the line of thinking where I'm like, this needs to get more difficult as it progresses. It just needs to be a static level of very high difficulty straight from the bat, which is what I'm doing with the next series. And yes, I do feel like I wanted Tileman to be harder mid to end game. Obviously, the Inferno gave me a ton of challenge, and after it was finished, I felt a ton of relief. But I want to feel challenged the whole way through. I definitely felt like, mid to end game, there's really nothing that challenged me. I mean, Corrupted Gauntlet, I literally got it on my first try. That was like the one thing that, maybe could have stood in my way. Maybe that was going to be like a really tough grind. I was actually going into the Corrupted Gauntlet grind thinking, what if I have to do like 1,000 or 2,000 of these? And that's what this series is known for. I definitely had that thought on my mind. And then I finished it in 300. So I was maybe even a little disappointed that the series didn't have more adversity at Gauntlet, because that grind just came so easily to me, and I just did it first try, got the bow and the armor within 300. So this account, Tileman in general, has been so lucky. Tileman was very lucky everywhere. I can't even think off the top of my head any place where I was unlucky on that account, which pales in comparison to Swampletics and my main ultimate, or I think just those two accounts, those two accounts actually had very bad luck in general. So I'd say Tileman probably paid me back for the RNG I felt on those two accounts. What other games do you consistently play, like in your downtime away from OSRS? Not many. There really isn't like any games that I play that much other than RuneScape. It takes up a very big portion of my gaming life. I did have a CSGO and Valorant stint. I still sometimes play Valorant, but I haven't played in like 4 months. I peaked Immortal 3. I also played Elden Ring for a while. I did some quirky stuff there, and I was a really good Minecraft Bed Wars player, if you know what that is. That was like 3 years ago that I became really sweaty and good at it. Past that though, not many games, very select palette, and RuneScape just takes up a majority of my time. What was one thing you learned from the playthrough that you didn't even know after all your hours played? This is going to be the quirkiest little thing. The barrels in Lumbridge, the barrels in the Lumbridge Castle Towers, the fact that you can fill a beer glass with one of the barrels. I don't know why that's the first thing that comes to my mind, but I learned that during the series, and it was so fascinating to me. I have just, I had no idea that you could do that. So that's just going to be like the little quirky bit of game knowledge that I learned. I'm sure there's a lot of other things, but I can't really think of them. Will you be doing escape rooms again? Loved that style of video. Yeah, so I had a third escape room coming out. It was somewhat edited, and just, I ran into such a brick wall with it because I had just changed my OBS settings before logging into the escape room. I recorded the whole thing in super low bitrate, so all the footage just ended up being so bad. It's like painfully low quality. I was thinking maybe I could drop it on this channel, but then, you know, I don't have as much motivation to edit the whole storyline of it when, you know, all the footage looks so bad. So I don't know. I don't even know what's going on with it right now. I really want to finish that series off. Episode 3 potentially could have been the finale of it. They were never really meant to be a series. They were meant to be more as one-offs. I was thinking about putting the third episode on this channel, but then I'm like, that makes no sense because the first 2 episodes are on my main channel, so I don't really want to split them up, and the quality's worse. I'm at a crossroads with that. I'll try to get it figured out in 2024. I just don't know right now. I don't have a concrete answer for you. How often did you get recognized while playing, and was it ever a problem? It's never a problem, but it happened pretty often. I'd say, I don't know, I'm just pulling numbers out of a hat right now, but maybe like a quarter of the time I see a player and they like stand around me, they're gonna say something to me. So it was pretty often. It's never a problem though. I'm always happy to reply, and it's very easy for me to just say something. Unless I'm like AFK completely or watching a movie or something, I'm always gonna reply, and it's never a problem. Love Tileman from the first vid. Do you ever see yourself going back on Swampletics for Nightmare and Darkmare? Is there something left unfulfilled with McTile? More skilling to do? Where main since TOA? I did answer at least one of those before. I'm actually not sure which one, just looking at this question right now, but let's get into it anyway. McTile unfulfilled, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's a single thing that I still want to do on McTile. I was thinking about de-ultimating it, making it an Iron Man. It's just feels so taboo to de-ultimate or de-iron your account because, you know, it was meant to be a certain way, and I don't know. I'm still very undecided about that, but another like way of thinking about it is, well, if I de-ultimate it, if I make it into an Iron Man, and if I make it into a main, then maybe I'll get some use out of it, because right now I have no way of trying new content when it comes out. As an Ultimate Iron Man, even though my main Ultimate Iron Man is maxed, so it can do anything, I still can't try most content on release because every Ultimate Iron Man runs the risk that something is bugged with like a new boss release or something, and then you die at the boss and all of your gear is gone because the death mechanics had a bug. That has happened at least like twice before that I know. So I don't try things on release on my maxed ultimate, which makes it not a great count for, you know, trying new updates and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily have any account that I could do, you know, my, new content with. So that's what I would turn McTile into, and it already has an Infernal Cape, it already has Song of the Elves, so I would have a big head start. It's like 1800 total. But it just feels bad. Like, it's a thought, you know, I would get more use out of the account. It wouldn't just collect dust on a shelf. So there's multiple ways of looking at it. I don't know. I'll definitely think about it for a long time before I make any concrete decision. But either way, the history of McTile is etched forever into YouTube, and I love that. Swampletics for Nightmare and Darkmare. Yeah, I could, but it feels so wrong to take that account out of its, you know, out of its resting place and make it do more content. It kind of feels like I'm very happy with how that story wrapped up, and I don't know, if anything, maybe for something like a 5-year anniversary is coming up pretty soon, so it wouldn't be for a 5-year anniversary. I don't know. I definitely am thinking about it. It's definitely not out of the question, but I don't think it's something I'm going to do anytime soon. It's just going to be probably something that I move the goalpost on until I eventually do it. Did you expect the cooked jubblies to become such a running gag as the series progressed? I didn't. I really didn't, but I'm so glad it did because it was so charming. I really loved it. It would make me smile every time I like saw them pop up. And I think the second time was in Feldip Hills when someone dropped like 2 near my box traps and logged out. That's when I knew, like, okay, this is probably going to become a running bit, because if someone's doing it again and I put it in a video, then people are going to continue doing it. And they did. They just continued to do it every single episode. It was so funny. And I love running bits in every single series. Swampletics had Old Boot. This one had the Jubblies. And it's funny that they just manifest themselves on their own. You know, it's not something that I ever have to force. It just happens. And that's what makes them so special. It makes them really charming. Can we see a series using only item spawns? I have no idea what you're smoking, brother, but I'm really curious because I don't know where this would go. I mean, you know, maybe something I can do on this channel is just you guys send me every idea you have for any kind of restricted series, and I'll just do it for a day. Like something like this, I could do in 24 hours. And then you guys could have a verdict if it's the worst thing you've ever seen in your life or not. Because I think this would be one of those things. I mean, I could pick up an iron dagger or something and do a boss, but I don't know. I don't know where that could go, but maybe I'm sleeping on it. Who knows? Would you ever consider doing a normal playthrough? Some restrictions would make it more interesting, but the in-depth process of game mechanics like prayer flicking and flinching would be very interesting to learn about. No, I don't think I'd ever consider doing a normal playthrough. Just most of my fun from this game comes from playing it in really quirky, challenging ways. If I just did a normal playthrough, I think I would get very bored because I think the game just gets very one-dimensional when the source of every kind of upgrade, every meaning of the game revolves around one thing, and it's GP. GP gets more gear. You get more gear to get more GP. You kill bosses to get more GP. You get the best drops in the game to get more GP, to get better drops, to get... It's all revolving around one thing. It's all very one-dimensional. You end up just experiencing very little of the game when you play it as a main account, I feel like. As when it comes to like prayer flicking and flinching and mechanics like that, I tend to explain those throughout my restricted series anyway, because those are mechanics that I end up using a lot because I'm so restricted. So I try to go somewhat in depth. I mean, I don't do like a big breakdown on every mechanic in the game, but I do try to explain it so that people understand, and whenever I'm using it, I definitely go into it. Do you plan on doing another region locked UIM in the future? If so, what regions interest you? I don't think I'll be doing an area lock ever again. I mean, I could be wrong. There's Varlamore coming to the game in 2024, which is a huge region. It really just depends. I feel like everyone's going to be doing an area lock in that region, though. I'm going to be honest, that's not going to be something unique if I had decided to do that. But every area that I, have scouted out, so to speak, for an area lock just doesn't make too much sense to me. I mean, there are lots of options, don't get me wrong, but there isn't anything that hasn't been done at this point. When it comes to area locks, it just gets a little, it's all tapped out in my opinion. And every area that I do, I would just have like a whole roadmap right in front of me on basically everything. So in that regard, an area lock doesn't really interest me anymore. If it were to be any region, it would be Varlamore, which is coming in 2024. But like I said, I think it's going to be done by a lot of people. I'm probably going to be busy with my next series anyway at that point. So if anything, I'd probably revisit this question in 2025 and onward. But right now, I'm going to say a very solid concrete no. As someone who's inspired to get into old school RuneScape, would you ever make an updated, in-depth guide to old school RuneScape? I think there's so much out there already. If you really did want a guide, I think there's so many places to look if you just type in the keywords on YouTube. I really think if you are inspired to get into the game, go in blind, don't look anything up, just make an Iron Man and experience the game. I think nowadays it's a little more user-friendly in the sense that they do give you a little bit of guidance with like the activity advisor, and the tutorial is even a little more self-explanatory these days. And just make an Iron Man and just go play the game. Just literally experience it for yourself because it's such a blast. Like literally, if you ask any RuneScape player who has a 4-digit number of hours, they're going to tell you that the best like gaming moments they've had was when they were just starting out and they didn't know anything. And that's just such a good way to play the game. So if you want a guide, if you want any kind of like loose things to go for, you can look things up on YouTube. But I really, really recommend just going the like leap of faith Iron Man route and just do a regular Iron Man. You could start as a hardcore if you want, but you might be upset if you lose your status at some point. You might get attached to it. So I would recommend starting as a regular Iron Man. Don't do Ultimate. Don't do Ultimate until you know some stuff about the game, in my personal opinion. But if that sounds fun to you, if just only having your inventory sounds fun to you, go for Ultimate, go for it. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Will you be at RuneFest 2024? If it's there, I will go. I've been to every single RuneFest since 2018, but unfortunately 2020 and 21, 22, and 23 didn't happen 4 years in a row. So if it happens in 2024, I'm there. Will Glop answer for his war crimes? Glop has not done a single thing wrong in his entire life. So how about you back off? That's gonna do it for our second channel extended cut. If you watched both videos all the way, I love you. I appreciate it a lot. There's gonna be some random content posted to this channel, so watch out for that. I'm gonna grind out a Dragon Defender on this account, and this may or may not be the final footage of Tileman you see. So I guess we'll find out over time. Say goodbye to Glop, and next challenge is coming. And until then, maybe I'll do some random 24-hour restricted accounts while I take a little breather. If you have any suggestions at all, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll be reading all of them. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.